Hi, I'm Hamish Black, and welcome to Writing on Games. When Ubisoft sent me a copy of Watch Dogs 2, I was curious, but ultimately worried that I wouldn't have much to say about it. I mean, it's a Ubisoft open world game in 2016. Not only that, but it's a sequel to one of the most famously disappointing games of recent memory. 2016 has been a year replete with total time sinks, Mafia 3 and No Man's Sky being two prime examples, and honestly I worried that investing so much time into this would merely be another meaningless distraction from the masses of writing I need to do right now. However, as I cruised around the seemingly accurate representation of San Francisco the game puts forward, I found myself having fun. As I infiltrated top-secret facilities without even setting foot in a building, I felt challenged and tense in the same way that a modern Deus Ex game makes me feel. As I found myself caring about a group of misfits despite being framed by some of the cringiest hacker humour since, well, any movie ever made with hackers in it, I began to realise that maybe, just maybe, this was the game that Watch Dogs was always meant to be. I mean, honestly, I'm actually kind of taken aback at how much this game is doing for me on so many different levels. Let's start with the gameplay, because after the shit show that was Mafia 3, I thought I had lost all hope in open world mission design. Functionally, things don't seem much different here. It's the same go-to objective, infiltrate objective to get to the goal design that drives almost any open world game. The difference here is that, in practice, the game weirdly ended up reminding me of Human Revolution more than anything else. Like, remember in the first Watch Dogs where you had that interesting camera mechanic where getting line of sight on a hackable object allowed you to create havoc, but ultimately you would have to stealth your way through the compound in order to get to your goal? The camera mechanic was potentially interesting, but ultimately didn't stop that game from feeling like a generic cover shooter with hacking elements rather than the other way around. Here, that is far from a problem. Not only do hacking minigames appear in-world, adding a physicality to puzzle solving, but thanks to the presence of your drone and Jumper, a little vehicle that rolls along the ground and can hack objects, you almost literally never have to set foot in the buildings you need to get into. It's designed to be a far more difficult approach, as your mechanical infiltrators can be taken down in one hit, leaving you to deal with a lengthy cooldown process unless you do want to head in yourself. But there's something so empowering about feeling like you can get in and out without anyone knowing you're there, mainly because you never were there. That said, there's just also a gleeful sense of mischief in messing with people, setting traps and creating distractions just for the hell of it. The game allows you to get truly absurd with it at times. The tension of infiltrating an FBI building gives way to hilarity when you can highlight an agent as a gang traitor and watch as two sicarios bolt past, presumably through the multiple security systems you had to bypass to get there, to inevitably get cut down by other agents because, hey, you're in a goddamn FBI building. Of course, it's far from realistic, but it falls in line with what you want to do in this world, mess around and cause havoc. Long story short, if you approach this game in the same way you'd approach something like Hitman, you're gonna have a good time. What's perhaps most interesting about this, and what I never thought I would ever say about a fucking Watch Dogs game, is that this kind of playfulness is something I feel the game encourages through its writing. You see, in my eyes, the narrative here contextualizes your approach to these missions. Yes, the cringy leet hacksaws aesthetic and humour is there in spades, but the way it's implemented is surprisingly clever. Remember how in the first game, Deus Ex was seen as a shadowy, dark organisation concerned purely with justice? Well, here they're revealed to be a bunch of bratty trolls concerned with online followers. If we're looking at this in terms of the obvious reference to certain hacker groups, then it's rare for a game to actually nail the for the lulz nature of that endeavour, and yes, I hate myself for saying that. There is a larger target at play, and as the story progresses, it becomes more and more focused on that target, but initially the game isn't afraid to spend time building these characters up and encouraging playfulness through attacks on more general institutions. These characters aren't simply doing these things for the greater good, They're literally using these missions to acquire online followers. In a lot of ways, they're kinda just fucking around. And that's great. It doesn't feel like the game is trying to pad its length, because firstly, those missions are immensely fun in themselves thanks to expansive and varied level design. Second, it allows the game to give you insight into these surprisingly deep characters. And thirdly, because turning these early missions into little vignettes, as opposed to super important plot moments, fits with what these characters are actually doing. Their goals are initially as immediate as the player's actions, and it's at once illuminating and gratifying. Also, you may be thinking to yourself, did he just say these characters are surprisingly deep? These hacker meme culture idiots? Well, yeah. I don't know if this is me having my expectations set so unbearably low by Aiden Pierce, one of the flattest, dullest characters I can remember controlling in a game, but I actually found myself really rooting for this group. If the game has a common theme, it's that technology can often be used as a mask, sometimes literally in the case of Wrench, but it's always hiding something deeper, and weirdly, the hacker stuff makes these characters feel more human. The game actually ends up tackling identity politics and the need to belong to something bigger in an incredibly nuanced way for a AAA open world game. As opposed to asking whether or not technology is bad, it asks where we draw the line between what is healthy and what is detached from reality. The edgy hacker humour is totally surface level, a marker of collective identity which acts as a vector for more interesting stories to be told about the individuals that comprise it. What's particularly great is that the game is never sanctimonious about the dangers of technology or how we're not experiencing the real world, man, like it's fucking Banksy or something. It recognises the potential importance of the mask, of sometimes hiding parts of ourselves or projecting the bits we're most confident about. It acknowledges that the danger is not the technology itself, but the people who would seek to manipulate your constructed identity to their own means. Ultimately, it conveys an incredibly compelling message for the modern age that few games really have done previously. Choose whoever the hell you want to be, and if technology helps you do that, then so be it. Just be wary of those who would seek to use that against you. That's not to say it's perfect, far from it. The game loses a lot of steam through the last few missions, feeling like it's been building up to something, then returning to vignette-style missions in the game's coda. Also, whilst the edgy hacker humour may only be surface level, if I have to hear one more person talking about waking up the sheeple, I'm gonna go off my nut. That is to say, there really is a lot of it. Essentially what I'm saying is there are points where the game really misses the mark. I mean, it's a little weird if you've killed 1 million cops to get to your objective and Marcus comes out with something like, "It's the hack of the century!" But nearly everything you do is thematically consonant with your character. At the end of the day, Marcus is a dumb, action movie loving dweeb with a penchant for mischief, not unlike your role in the world as a player. It acts in stark contrast to Aiden Pierce, a guy who had all these powers at the touch of a button, but was so dull and self-serious that it never felt like you as a player could have any fun with it. Here they managed to strike the balance between an infinitely more playful tone, whilst engaging with our modern anxieties with technology, racism and sexism in the tech sector, how we construct our own identities, and so much more. I have a feeling that people will balk at some of the more cringy humour on display, and well, you're within your rights to do so. Peel back that superficial layer, however, and you'll find a game that takes a lot of risks with an IP whose name isn't held in the highest regard. Not only is it a wildly entertaining open world experience with a refreshing take on the expected mission design of the genre, but its writing renders it all thematically coherent, which should be commended in and of itself. So there's my take on Watch Dogs 2. I was certainly not expecting it to be anywhere near this good, so I'd heartily recommend checking it out if you get the chance. I mean, I'm thinking of going back and doing a more in-depth level design video on this. It's that good. Also, the channel just hit 20,000 subscribers. Like, Holy shit, that is incredible. Thank you all so much for watching, commenting, sharing the videos, everything like that. Also, I just want to take this opportunity to thank my patrons who truly make this show possible. Thank you all so much. If you like the channel and want access to bonus things like scripts and soundtracks or early access to the episodes themselves, then please consider pledging. And with all of that said, I'm Hamish Black and this has been Writing on Games. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next time.